Hello, my name is Nicki and I am the Assistant Professor of Saxophone at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and I'm here today to talk about Eugene Bozza's Aria. This is a piece that's quite commonly played by prospective auditionees for me, and it's a piece that I think is really crucial in learning for a lot of reasons, especially with younger students, one of which that is quite large, and that is vibrato. And that's something that can really be utilized in this beautiful piece. There's three main areas that I think are very crucial to touch upon with this work. One is skeletonizing the melody, and I will explain a little bit of what I mean by that. The other is the use of grace notes in a musical sense. And the last is understanding the form of the work and where the climax might be, and you can utilize your playing in a lot of different ways to bring out that climax. So what do I mean by skeletonizing? For me, a lot of times, especially in longer lyrical lines, I like to really figure out what are the more important notes in that line. And I can do this in a variety of different ways. In this piece specifically, I look for the hierarchy melody. If I were to look at the first two lines, I really see that there is an ascending and descending pattern in terms of a melodic line. So if I take out some of these filler notes and really focus on my phrase direction, this comes out more when I add these notes back in. So right now I'm going to take the first couple lines and I'm going to show what that hierarchy in terms of melody is. Now I just played from bar 5 to the downbeat of the first bar in the third line. If I were to put it in context just in that first line, I'd hear really where these inner notes need to lead to. Now with that, I was able to hear how I can push my vibrato forward and spin it in a sense that it's pushing a phrase forward. I like to give this piece a subtitle of A Study in Vibrato. So a lot of times when I have a younger student starting to work on this piece, I'll talk a lot about vibrato, which is a really important tool to have in our bag of tricks. The next thing I want to briefly talk about is how we can fit these grace notes in at the end of line 3. This is in between rehearsals 2 and 3, and so it doesn't eschew the rhythm we already have, which is these triplet patterns, and make sure they're putting the phrase forward. Bozza's using sequencing here, which sequencing is essentially a melodic idea that's getting put through a variety of different keys. And so with that being said, we want to make sure we can play this without the grace notes first, and without the ties. And making sure you're still making a melody out of it, and it's something enjoyable to listen to. Then taking out the ties. Because there is a sense of syncopation here. Then, one by one, adding in the grace notes without losing this melody that we've already established. This is sometimes the most difficult passage of the piece, so it's essential to be working a lot in this section in terms of expression and musicality while fitting the technique in. The last thing that I think is important to note, well, there are a lot of important things to note, but the last big part I'd like to note is where this climax is. There's a lot of phrase markings in here that I think are important to translate if you don't already know French, but starting towards the end of the line we have between rehearsals 4 and 5, we have a big climax. One of the dead giveaways for this is the fortissimo dynamic marking on this beautiful high D sharp. And by practicing backwards, I can kind of understand where the arrival is. So a lot of times I like to just sit on this high D sharp. working backwards, sometimes beat by beat or measure by measure, to really aim and drive to that D sharp. And constantly asking myself, is this an arrival point? Am I making this a big arrival point? So that's a very important place to note. This piece is also in somewhat of an ABA form, where the melody comes back at rehearsal 6, this time 2 dynamics softer. So even speaking about a color change as a younger high school student or early freshman in college, thinking about tone colors and how you can make a melody different when it comes back is really important.